everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of Life After Lights. I am your host, Tyler Greer. Today, my special guest is Brian Tollberg. Brian Tollberg pitched 4 years in the major leagues for the San Diego Padres. He is now the high school pitching coach for Jesuit Tigers, and he is also working on his book, which is titled We Don't Know Yet. But he is working on it. So when it does come out, we will let you know about it. So Brian, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm good, Tyler. How are you today?
All right, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and spending some time with us. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to dig right in. So first topic is your sports career. So how long did you play baseball for between your high school, college, and pro career? So give us a little background to your story.
High school, obviously 4 years, but I actually quit. Everybody deals with some type of politics in their career. That happened for me my junior year, affected my grades, affected my friendships. And so I ended up quitting, walking away from that team junior year, and ended up playing some tennis and took some lessons and just to clear my head. But that was probably one of the most pivotal years for me, just to see really if I was truly committed to playing at the next level and beyond. So I ended up, I guess you could say, 3.5 years of high school when it was all said and done, but really put myself in a good position for possibly playing in college, and played 4 years at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville for a Hall of Fame coach named Dusty Rhodes, and learned a lot about the game and the proper respect and the work ethic that I brought with me into pro ball there. So I played 4 years there, and didn't get drafted out of there, unfortunately, after my 4 years. So ended up going to Chillicothe, Ohio in the Frontier League. That was the second year of that team's existence, and did well and made some gains there with my game in 94. And then I played from 95 to 2006. So I played 12 years professionally after that. So
all right, that's
long career.
Awesome. Yeah,
longer than other people would have figured that I would have played. So yeah, 12 years is a great career to play, no matter where you're at. That's a long career, and it definitely takes a toll on you. Absolutely. So yeah,
within your 12-year career, what are some of the highs that you had, and what are some of the lows that you had in your career?
Great question. Highs, we 94, just playing in that league for the first time. Had a great experience in Chillicothe. Had never been to Ohio up to that point. Ended up leading the league in strikeouts that year. Ended up being the first player from that league to make it to the big leagues. Their version of the Cy Young Award is Brian Tollberg Award now. So just super fantastic people that I dealt with from that league across the board. So that was fantastic. That was one of the highs. Right into my first year of pro ball with the Brewers minor league affiliate Beloit. We ended up winning the Midwest League Championship for the first and only time, I believe, that they've ever won it there, and just had a great group of guys to get my feet wet in affiliated professional baseball. So won a ring right out of the gate. So I was like, this thing ain't too hard, right out of the gate to win, and ended up winning 15 games that year. So that was a fantastic experience. Ended up skipping high A and went to double A the next year. I'm going to give you a condensed version, obviously. Ended up, one of the lows was I ended up it was a blessing in disguise. I ended up getting traded the next year to San Diego's organization in spring training. And they obviously gave me an opportunity to further my career, and I ended up getting to the big leagues a couple of years later after that trade happened. Another high, obviously, is getting to the big leagues, and I ended up getting called up on Father's Day of all days. So that was a neat experience to be able to share with my family, especially with my father, and for them to be able to fly out and make it to my big league debut. I parlayed that into winning my first 2 games up in the big leagues, and was only supposed to be up there for 3 starts originally. And that ended up being, parts of 4 years, like you had alluded to. Won the NL Player of the Week my first week in the big leagues. Got meet and interact with a lot of guys that I had held in really high regard, the Tony Gwynns, the Trevor Hoffmans, A-Rods, Jeters, all those guys that, you have baseball cards as kids, and now you're a coworker in essence. So just a really, really neat experience, and gave me a lot of cool memories to be able to look at. And, after my career was over, some downsides of my career, I think I hit on the high school, quitting my junior year. I think pro ball is a business at a certain point. A lot of people come in with rose-colored glasses, and if you don't stay healthy, if you don't put up numbers at every level, it could be a very quick in and out of pro ball. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people don't realize that. So I, for the most part, was pretty successful, pretty consistent in my career, but I had some injuries from time to time. I ended up having Tommy John in 2002. Fortunately, it was in the big league, but dealt with some injuries along the line, and that's a little bit difficult to deal with when you feel like you're of no help to your team. Mm-hmm. And you can't contribute to their benefit. So, and there's times where you feel like you get passed over for promotions and things of that nature. But overall, I would say, to be honest, there's not a lot of negative memories for me in my career. I feel like it was all a blessing, and has opened up so many different opportunities for me post-playing career. So, it's all an experience and things that I can use to teach kids from my experiences, good or bad. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much, man. That was cool. Yeah, to see, from a junior to get cut or to quit to make it to the major leagues, that doesn't happen very often. That's a really cool story. And, it's really inspiring for people who, and like you said, there's a lot of politics now, which is it's not very much fun. So it just kind of gives the kids hope, like, hey, like, you know what, I can still work hard. I can still go, I can still make it. So that's
anything
awesome.
is possible. And that's part of the reason why I've told my story from the independent league all the way up to the big leagues. I've told that to several people years ago, and they're like, you know what, that's a pretty cool story. You need to put that on paper and write a book. And that was really the impetus of why I wanted to, do it, just to show kids, like, I was never the best player on any team I ever played on. From Little League on up, was one of the better players, but was not the best player. And to show that with a little hard work and determination and some focus and having good grades and, being a good teammate, anything is possible. So that was the biggest reason for that. And, the game has changed slightly from when I grew up. I mean, there was no travel ball. It was, if you were one of the better players, you were going to make this team. And, I think sometimes now it's a little bit more on the, pay to play a little bit at certain places in the United States. And, sometimes the kids don't get the fundamentals that they need to make the high school team when they get a little bit older. And so, it's just different. And, I think there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. And so that's hopefully what I can translate into this book down the road.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You have a great head on your shoulders. So I think you're going to touch a lot of people with that book and help them out. I think that's going to be a great thing for you.
Hopefully. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question to you is, how did playing sports mold you into the person you are today? And then also, what lessons did you learn along the way?
Fantastic open-ended questions. So for me, and I have two sons, almost 8 and 10. And for me, that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to push them into sports. My wife played sports growing up as well. Just the importance of teamwork, the importance of, knowing how to deal with failure. I think that there's a lot of helicopter parents now that don't want somebody to fall down and struggle. And that's part of life. And so if you don't learn about that, and this is an easy format to teach that in the sports realm, good communication skills. There's just so many different life lessons that sports brings to you. And honestly, that I tell kids all the time that I work with, I don't remember whether we won or lost. I remember friendships that were made. I remember experiences that were shared. Those are the things that I remember. I don't care about the trophies. I don't care about any of that. I have people that I played Little League with that I still keep in touch with, and in high school and college and pro ball, and those are really the things that I think endure when it's all said and done. It's not the wins and losses, and I think a lot of kids and parents, especially nowadays, that's the end all be all, is whether we won the game or won the tournament, and it's like that's such a small piece of it when it's all said and done. So, those are the big things that really I focus on with the kids that I work with here locally, and my kids, is just, those things are so important just in life. So.
Oh, I couldn't agree with that 100%. I'm same boat. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, you get knocked down, you dust yourself and come back up and you keep going. So that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
And in life, it's the same thing. You're going to get knocked down as an adult. You dust yourself off and keep on going. It's just something you just learn from. That's all it is, really.
And my dad tried to teach me at a young age, you might not be the best player, but don't let anybody outwork you. And once I got to pro ball, you're affiliated pro ball, especially, you're around people and you start to know who's who. And it's like, well, that guy signed for $1 million. That guy signed for $500,000. And it's like, you already start to play mind games before you've thrown a pitch in a bullpen that guy's better than you, or that guy's better than you because there's more money invested. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's who's going to work harder, because everybody, it's that mountain of players that, you get to the very top, and you're pretty close to there when you're in the minor leagues to get to that summit. And everybody's good. It's what's going to separate you. And a lot of times I felt like it was the work ethic. I mean, kids were really, really talented. There are tons of kids that never made it to the big leagues that were way more talented than I was, but I knew how to deal with failure maybe a little bit better. I knew how to be a little bit more consistent, start to start or week to week. I had a process that I tried to stay with and be religious with. And, and again, there's plenty of guys. I can give you a dozen names of guys that never made it past like A-ball or AA that were way better stuff than I was, but I made it. So, the work ethic is big. And that's one of the things I try to really show to the kids that I have in high school, because I wouldn't have made this high school, Jesuit high school. I wouldn't have ever had a chance to even make that staff. They're so deep. A couple of years ago, we had like 8-10 guys that were 90 plus off the mound in high school. And I was like, there's no chance of me ever sniffing this field, but I would outwork guys. So talent wise, you guys got me, but I would outwork the majority of you guys. And so just to prepare them for the next level, because a lot of those kids are going to get an opportunity to play in college or beyond, and just what's necessary, what to expect at the next level for them. So,
yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes you a great coach, because you're preparing them for the next step, because you've been there, so you understand exactly what it is. And the thing that you have, your biggest advantage is that you've been there, you've done it. So, you have some coaches who say, oh, you got to do this, that. And then, they didn't play past Little League, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, no, that's awesome. You can tell the kids are in good hands. You have a lot of passion when you talk. So that's the best thing too, as well.
And no disrespect to Little League coaches. There's a lot of coaches that are like fantastic and they never played at a high level, and that's all good. I mean, I just like to be able to, like I said, play off of my experiences and tell them, like, what you're doing right now works for right now, but you want to play at a major D1 program or beyond, you got to up your game so much more. You're just going to be a number there. And some kids realize that the hard way, unfortunately, but a lot of kids it clicks with, and I think they're appreciative once they get to college, and it's not a big eye opener for them. So
yeah, exactly. So my next question here is, do you have any long lasting friendships from your playing days? Guys you still talk to, stay in contact with, anything like that?
I got, I live in Tampa. I grew up about an hour away from here, south of here in Bradenton, Florida, where the Pirates spring train. And I probably have about 10 guys from high school time frames. We try to get together occasionally and catch up and, have a drink or, hit the golf course or something like that when our schedules permit. Majority of the guys that I still keep in touch with are probably college guys. I really had a great time in college. And I think those years in your life are just such formative, years for people, like, to learn your independence and your way from home. And the game itself was just so much more advanced than it was in Little League or high school. And so, and to share that experience with a lot of the guys that you came up with. So a lot of guys from high school, we had a great program there, still to this day have a great program. So a lot of college guys, and we get together on alumni weekends and stuff like that. So, you can kind of reconnect. Some pro guys. Yeah. I mean, most of them minor league guys, big league guys. And I feel like majority of the guys that I've talked to that played in the big leagues with me, once you get done, everybody kind of splits and does their own thing. And unless you live in that area, I played my big league times in San Diego, and I lived in Florida. So if I still lived in San Diego, there's a bunch of guys that still, get together, ride Harleys down the Pacific Coast Highway and golf and whatever. I don't live out there, unfortunately, still anymore. So I'm not a part of that crew, but and then, a lot of guys, I waited till, I was done to have kids and stuff like that. And now, that's a whole other chapter of your life and, occupies a lot of your time. So, but no, I have a good mix. I mean, it's some people kind of, they close that chapter and they don't open that book anymore for those relationships they had that was in the past. I still, very few people can relate about minor league stories or college stories like on a day-to-day basis. So it's nice to be able to have those people that you call out of the blue and relive the moments a little bit. So,
yep, absolutely. So my next question to you is: do you have a favorite teammate of all time, and do you have any good stories to tell?
PG stories. There's a bunch of stories I could tell, but favorite teammates, like I had some great ones coming up. Just in pro ball, Craig Brown was a guy in Chillicothe that we palled around. He was from that area. We still keep up to this day, and we met each other there in '94. So he's still a good buddy of mine. Pro ball, there was a bunch of guys, and typically it was roommates or guys that I used to throwing partners, or there was a guy named Greg Mullins that I knew from college that I played with my first year of pro ball there. Multitude of guys. Trevor Hoffman was my throwing partner in San Diego, and so I thought I worked hard. I saw a guy making, I think he had like a 4-year deal for $32 million at the time or whatever, and showed up early, left late every single day, was a great person in the community. And I was like, man, if I could mold myself in my career, you're my example right there. And so I got to just pick his brain and throw with him every day. And he was maniacal in his work ethic. And, it was just a great guy. I mean, he had great family life away from it, and he's done well since he's left the game, and still involved quite frequently. So he was great. As far as I got some Trevor Hoffman stories. There was first time, like I was told when I got to the big leagues, keep your head down. People don't care about your opinions. I was only supposed to be there for 3 starts anyway. So literally I was going to be there for 2 weeks and I'm out. And so I kind of had blinders on, and I just, didn't want to, stir anybody, you push anybody's buttons the wrong way or anything like that. And so I went into the training room. My first day, I got called up to the big leagues the next day, and, was doing my shoulder exercises in the corner. And Trevor was getting worked on by the trainer, and he loud talked a little bit to the trainer, something along the lines of, if this was the first day with a new organization or a new team, would you ignore the rest of the people in the room when you walked in or whatever? And I was like, I am so sorry. Like, this is what I was told to do. And whatever. He's like, no, I'm just messing with you, man. And whatever. And so nice icebreaker at the time, but yeah. And he was such a professional guy, and just, happy-go-lucky, and, total kind of surfer vibe. There were times where, like, it happened very rarely. I will start by that, but there were times where he would blow a save or something and would come out, and, that's his job right there is, you're done in like 3 to 5 minutes basically. And I remember there was a time we talked, he had blown a save one day, and the next day we got there early, and I was like, the hairs on my arms were standing up. When you came out of the game, he came out, put his hat down, put his jacket on, and then just clapped it up for whoever was in at that time frame. And I said the hairs on my arms were sticking up. I was like, I would have lost my cool. I would have been yelling down the tunnel, whatever. And he's like, totally. Like, what good does that do? He's like, part of my mystique is showing, great changeup, great command. He had some high leg kicks, so he had some deception to his windup. And he's like, my job is done in 5 minutes. For me to yell, then they think at the end of the day, man, I got a chance of beating him the next time I see him. And he's like, I don't want to give them any ideas whether I was good that day, whether I was terrible that day. That's part of the mystique of being a closer. And so I don't want to give them any kind of mental ammunition. And I was like, dude, like that's so deep for how I thought, just because, a lot of people are in the here and now. If I struggle, I want to let everybody know and I want to blow off steam. And he's like, no, it doesn't do any good. So, and just a great guy. He used to wear like a little operating room, little pullover. That's what he used to exercise in all the time. I guess he had a friend that was a surgeon or something. So he never wore jerseys. He was always in his scrub top when he'd throw or run or whatever. So other little cool stories. One of them that I talked to people from Chillicothe when I went back to speak there. My rookie year, first time I went to Wrigley, I was warming up in the pen to pitch that day. And, every game that you have people coming into town, friends, family, you have your pass list or whatever. And so I was throwing in the pen, getting ready for the game. And my pitching coach, who was a closer for the Cubbies during his career, a guy named Dave Smith, we're throwing, and somewhere in center field in the stand, somebody's yelling, "Hey, Tollberg!" I ignore it, just laser focused on my catcher or whatever. And I hear it again, and I don't move. And then I'm like thinking to myself, who did I put on the pass list that's going to yell across the field at me and cause so much attention to themselves or whatever? And I threw a couple more pitches, and they did it like a third time. And I happened to just like tilt my head a little bit just to kind of figure out like, who is this? And they said at the top of their lungs, "You suck." Throwing a pitch in the first inning, and I started laughing. Like, I lost my game face for a second. I started laughing, and my pitching coach was like, "You gotta love Wrigley. You gotta love it." So just funny little experiences. We had our little rookie hazing initiation was at Wrigley as well. So at the end of that road trip, we were flying home that night after it was a day game in Chicago, and you came back into the clubhouse to get dressed after the game, and all our suits were gone. All the rookie suits were gone, and there were dresses in your locker. And so we had to wear dresses that were not our size to begin with and walk through a crowd of about 2,000 people, get on our bus, get on our flights. And then once we got back to San Diego, to get back into Qualcomm at the time and change. Well, the Chargers were playing that night as well. So we had to walk all through people there as well in dresses. So it was, and I got some funny pictures from that time frame. So, no, I mean, it was, it was a dream come true. I mean, even the good times, the bad times, whatever, it was all something that I could look back at very fondly and, be able to, look back and talk to my kids about the experiences that I had. And, playing with, 2001, I had 3 guys. My dad was like, "You got to get some balls signed." And I was a pretty big autograph guy to begin with, whether it was balls or jerseys or whatever, as I have in my room here a little bit. And I didn't ever dawn on me, but my dad's like, "You got to get a ball signed. You got 3 Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers on your team." And I was like, I never thought about it. Hoffy was a Hall of Famer, Tony Gwynn, and Rickey Henderson at the time, and all 3. So I got a couple balls during that time frame signed by all 3 of them, which was pretty cool. So no, it was a great experience altogether. So
yeah. I was just about to say too, like, I think you had a couple of different Hall of Famers in there with Hoffman and Gwynn off the top of my head. I knew that. But
yeah. Yeah, Rickey, that was towards the end of his career. And, just to see him go about his business, like I was a huge Rickey Henderson fan growing up. Had a pair of white Mizunos that, were Rickey Henderson model as a kid that I thought made me run faster. And just was such a consummate hard worker, even at a later stage in his career, and just was a really nice guy, different guy, but really nice guy. So it was a great experience playing alongside him as well.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I've heard some very interesting stories about Rickey Henderson. I don't know what to believe is true and what is not, but obviously this is from the outside looking, and this isn't from the inside looking on the out. But you know how it is. People, the buzz happens, and one story becomes another story becomes another, and next thing you know, it's some of the stuff you hear, you just don't know.
Some of them are probably true though, Tyler. Some of them, because some of them I'm like, there's no way that he said that or did this, and it is proven fact that it did happen. So we could talk about that another time on another broadcast for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on the second topic now, if I can speak here. We're going to talk about how you got set up for life after sports. So the next question we're going to ask is, while you were playing, did you at all start thinking about life after sports? And if you did, or if you did not, did you have a game plan of playing after your career?
Sure. And great question. I mean, probably one of the biggest things that I try to preach to kids now that are playing in the minor leagues or, have aspirations. And it's a delicate balance. I feel like looking back on it as well. I no preconceived notions that I was getting to the big leagues. Like that was always my dream from 5 years old on, was I'm going to play in the big leagues, and it's a done deal. And then the older you get, you get a good dose of reality setting in, and you realize like there's a lot of people that want to do that, and there's not very many people that get the opportunity. So what's next for me? Well, for me, I was out of high school, I weighed 152 pounds. I was 6'3". I was smart, National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, whatever the case may be. But I was smart, and I got to college because I was a student athlete, and I had good grades, and I qualified for some academic scholarships. But for me, I was like, man, if I can, that's a pipe dream getting to the big leagues, but man, if I can get college paid for, now I set myself up with minimal to no student debt when I graduate, and and see what happens. And so for me, I really took the academic side pretty seriously once I got to college. I worked hard. I did what I needed to do on the baseball side, but I was like, chances are I'm not going to play pro ball. Hold out hope, but what's plan B? And I'm big on the plan Bs in life. And so for me, I had a double major, corporate finance and economics with a minor in international business. Even when I played minor league ball, when I got in, having a double major and a minor, it took me an extra 2 off seasons to graduate. So like I would come back, I played my first year in Chillicothe, I guess. And I got a job right away as a server at Bennigan's, just to make a couple bucks. And then I had school, I had weight training, I had, other things that I had. And then, again, I didn't know what I didn't work as a kid when I was in high school, whatever. I was fortunate that I didn't have to, do that. I just needed to keep my grades up and work hard at sports, and, did a multitude of jobs. I worked at a private tutoring firm, had a great time doing that. I worked as a personal trainer. I worked at Bennigan's. I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then when I got to the big leagues, I was like, well, maybe even the year I got to the big leagues, one of my best friends, a college teammate from North Florida, was a financial advisor. And I talked to him during that year before I got called up. And I said, hey, my background's in the financial field. I want to see if this is something that I'm going to do for the future, if it's something that interests me. So can I do an internship for you once the season's over? He's like, yeah, I can only pay X amount of dollars an hour or whatever. I was like, I don't care. I don't care if you pay me at all. I just want to see what it's about. And so he's like, yeah, let's talk once the season's over. And so we, I get to the big leagues. He experiences that with me. And then we get to a point that I get back in town after the season's over, and I call him. I'm like, hey, when do I start? He's like, still want to do that? I said, yeah, like there's no guarantee. This is, I might be done. That might be the last time I ever play for whatever reason. So I need to see what's my plan B. So I went and, cold called people and mailed out flyers, and, they did dinners to try to attract new clientele and whatever. And I was like, okay, I kind of got a sense of what that looked like. And he ended up being my financial advisor just because he was a pretty buttoned up guy. And to this day, he's a very successful financial advisor. And, but I was like, I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. My thought was, with the international business background, I wanted to travel around the world, hopefully, and do business in different countries and see sights and experience different cultures. And I was like, I don't know what that looks like necessarily, what that exact job is, but that's what would be pretty cool for me. And then, wouldn't you know it, as soon as I get through playing, I played in Puerto Rico in winter ball. I played in Venezuela. Once I retired with the Baseball Factory, player development company that's international, I got a chance to go over to the Middle East and hit Dubai, Qatar, Kuwait with them. I went to Spain, northern Spain, for MLB alumni. I've been to Hong Kong several years with a group of former big league guys. So everything that I had wanted to do, I got an opportunity to do. It just wasn't the time frame or under the different circumstances. It was for baseball, not for business. But the biggest thing, I think, alluding to one of your questions earlier, was like, you never know when the end of your career is going to be. And so make sure you foster every relationship you have an opportunity to do. You never know that the CEO that you're going to create a great impression on, and they go, hey, here's my business card. When you're retired, give me a call. You would be a great fit for our business because of your personality or your work ethic or whatever. So that was something I tried to never burn any bridges in that regard professionally. And, even if I didn't choose to work for that company, they weren't going to have a bad thing to say about me, hopefully, if there was a coworker that I wanted to get introduced to. So, but it's hard when you're playing, or doing anything at the highest level that you can do, and then go, well, what's after this? Because then it's like, was some of that focus not on staying at that high level? So it's tough when you start to think about that. But that was always my mindset, was you never know how long you're going to be up here. So you might as well make some relationships with people that you come in contact with in the community or a front office or whatever. And you never know where that can lead.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, because just you're expanding your web. You're expanding,
Absolutely.
all your olive branches per se. You
Sure.
want to make sure that you explore everything that you can, because you just, like you said, you just never know when it's going to be your last time on the mound, or your last pitch, or your last at bat, or your last time playing anything. So no, that's a great thing to do. I'm really glad that that's the perspective that you had, and I just like sharing that, because now hopefully it kind of helps people, like, hey, business degree, international, traveling, maybe it'll spark some interest from other people and kind of shift their mind a little bit to with what to do after they're done playing with their career, because you were doing it while you were playing, which is incredibly impressive.
Well, I had to make some money, and I had to figure some stuff out, and I like being busy. I don't like idle time. And so for me, if I can make some money and learn something. And so, like, even the Bennigan's thing, like, some people are like, well, you just waited tables. Well, I waited tables for lunchtime. And so lunchtime tables are hopping and people are in and out within 20, 30 minutes. You can make some good money, but you had to hustle and, splitting checks and, lunch meetings and stuff where there's like, 15, 20 people there. Like it got a little nutty sometimes, but it kept me, focused on, just what could happen. And, and I knew, like, this is a great, what I don't want to do for the rest of my life. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was like able to know this is great. It showed me some work ethic. It showed me like how to be faceted to be able to help out in a team environment, not baseball. But I was a big academic guy growing up. So, like, to work at the private tutoring firm, I made great money there and loved Spanish and math and stuff like that. And I'm like, you're going to pay me good money to work math problems with these kids? I was like, heck yeah, where do I sign up? So, in the personal training, I was around the the physical training and talk to people about metabolism and nutrition and just the right way to work out and to dispel some of the myths that they may have. And so that kept me like physically dialed in as well in the off season. So it was all good. I mean, it all played a part in me down the road. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So my next question here for you is, knowing what you know now, would you have done anything different in your career? And do you have any regrets looking back on your baseball career?
Such a good question. And it's funny because my college coach, he used to really hammer home to us as a group and individually, like, this, you're going to play your 3 or 4 years or whatever of college ball, and then for most of you guys, that's it. So you're probably going to be a fan, you're going to be a dad, you're going to go to the ballpark, you're going to be a little league coach or whatever. You're going to have to be around the game in the future. Do not leave this game on your own terms, and do not leave it with any regrets. And that really stuck with me in my career. And I'd be the type that would have me for the rest of my life if I didn't put everything everything I had into it, and make my family proud in the process. So do I have any regrets? I have friends and family. I mean, my dad told me after my first year in the big leagues, when I got home, I spent the off season in Bradenton with them. And he said, I wanted to tell you something. And I said, what's that? And he's like, and I don't want it to hurt your feelings. And I said, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. What's going on? And he said, I didn't think you were good enough to play after college. And I said, really? He's like, I wish that you got the opportunity to play at the next level. But he's like, but I just figured, like, you're good. You look the part, but like, a lot has to fall in place for you to get that opportunity. And then you took it upon yourself to go up to Chillicothe and get in an independent league and improve your game. And then you got a chance in Milwaukee's organization. And then, it's like, okay, well, that might be it. Like, you get an opportunity, you can say, hey, I made it to affiliated ball and I'm done. And you won 15 games. So he's like, where I thought you were gonna max out ability wise and talent wise and whatever, you just kept stepping it up. And then you had, an arm issue, and he's like, any adversity that got thrown your way, you were able to overcome it and continue on your journey. And so for me, like, every day up there was just a great opportunity for me. I got stupid stuff, as far as regrets. I wish I would have had a little bit more sense to, listen to my body at times, when there were times where I pushed it a little bit too hard in a bullpen session, when maybe I should have taken the day off from throwing or whatever. And that probably would have alleviated stints on the disabled list at times. The day I originally hurt my elbow was in '99 in a AAA game, in the first inning of a start. And I just thought it was like a muzzle spasm. It definitely felt different, not good. And I threw 5 innings trying to get the win for the team. Like, that was my job, was to help the team win. I ended up missing the entire rest of that year in AAA and had guys leapfrog me to get an opportunity in the big league. So little things like that, just being a little bit more intelligent in some of the choices that I made. But probably my biggest regret, I think, is as soon as my last year with the Padres was in '03, I was a free agent, granted free agency, and they had a bunch of young guys coming up: Oliver Perez, Jake Peavy, Dennis Tankersley. They had some dudes coming up that you knew were going to be pretty good. And so I was a guy that was there for 3-4 years, and maybe you could sign back, but I was like, I need a fresh start. They got some guys that are going to get their opportunities to fail or succeed. And so that off season, I was like, who do I want to sign with? And really thought about some things, and had met Clint Hurdle over the course of my career. And he was in Colorado at the time, and I had thrown extremely well at Coors Field. So I got on a phone call with him and was like, hey, would love to, talk to you. And he's like, you'd be a perfect fit for us, and this, that, and the other. So, set up some time to maybe go get a physical and see if that was a good fit. Well, in the meantime, I had a call from just out of the blue, somebody called me on the phone and said his name was such and such with the Boston Red Sox. And I had a couple buddies locally that they would call and be like, "Hey, this is John Smith with the New York Yankees. Like, hey, we want to, just pulling your chain a little bit." And so as soon as I got this call, my wires went up. My like, I was like, and I was like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's so and so, John Smith with the Red Sox." I was like, "Hey, John Smith with the Red Sox, how's it going?" Like, thinking that this is a buddy of mine, and he's like, "It's good. Like, how are you?" I was like, and he's like, "Well, this is." I said, "Well, I got buddies that try to play pranks or whatever." Anyway, he was with the Red Sox. He knew one of the guys that used to be with the Padres. That Theo Epstein was an assistant to the GM during my time with San Diego, and had since moved to the Red Sox organization as their general manager. And thought that I'd be a great fit for their long relief role in their bullpen that year and whatever. And I was like, he's like, "Is that of any interest to you?" And I was like, "No." I was like, I appreciate the call, but I in my mind, I'm a starter, and I think Colorado might be a pretty good fit for me or whatever. Well, I spent the entire year in AAA that year, just getting my brains beat in and just having a miserable time of things. And in 2004, I don't know if you remember what the Red Sox did that year, but they won a World Series.
Yep.
So looking back, I was like, choosing option B maybe might have led to a different outcome and maybe some different opportunities down the road. But you know what? You never know. So hindsight's 2020. So,
yep. Yeah, and if you would have signed with Boston, you would have had some good Manny being Manning stories too.
Oh, heck yeah. And you would have been a god there. You would have never paid for drinks or dinner anytime you ever went up there. So, and my brother at the time lived up there. So, man, if from his perspective, if he would have been like, "My brother plays for the Red Sox, this is game over, the coolest thing ever." So, yeah, it would have been cool, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So that's really cool though. But yeah. So my next question for you is, did you know when your last game was your last game? And if you did, how did you feel? Did you have any emotions, any mixed emotions? Were you sad, happy, kind of relieved? And then also now in this day, do you miss playing the game? Because I know it's a big part of our lives.
Sure. Such insightful questions, Tyler. Incredible. I'll tell you, I did not know it was I retired in 06, but in 05, in 04, when I was in Colorado getting my brains beat in, I kind of threw in the towel mentally at some point there and just really did not have a good time. It was a new organization for me, obviously, and just mentally kind of lost my edge a little bit and just was like, this year's a wash, to be honest, in a lot of regards. And I wasn't one of their guys that probably was being looked at. They had some young guys that they were grooming. And, what you don't realize is you throw in the towel and you have numbers while you're trying to go get a job the next year based on those numbers. So didn't have anybody calling right away. So I had to, not reinvent myself, but I had to go back to the drawing board a little bit. I was like, you know what, I gotta get, back with that right frame of mind. So I ended up going up to the Atlantic League up in New Jersey. I played for the Somerset Patriots that year in 05 to start the year. And, got back to my old self and my old work habits. And I think I was like 10-2 at the All-Star break.
Nice.
And Houston ended up signing me to a AAA deal. And I went to Round Rock to play for Nolan Ryan's team at the time and had a great time there. Finished the season on a pretty strong note. And they did not re-sign me for whatever the reasoning was. And I ended up signing to go to spring training with Toronto. And this was in 06. So I was like 34 years old. And so it wasn't a spring chicken. My better days were probably behind me, but if I could get back and squeak out a couple more years, then all good. And I went to spring training and threw really well, I thought, and they liked what they saw. And somebody had mentioned to me, this is a long-winded explanation to what you asked, but
no worries.
somebody had said like, hey, they're big on like if you're pitching well at the right time, even if you're not a 40-man roster guy, you got a chance to get called up. So I had a conversation with somebody. I knew I didn't want to just play AAA for the sake of playing AAA. I wasn't, I had other endeavors that I wanted to do in life, I think. And so I wasn't just like trying to hang on just to keep my foot in minor. I didn't want to be a minor league coach or I didn't have any aspirations of doing anything like that. So for me, I spoke to somebody in the front office, towards the end of spring training and was like, hey, I'm breaking camp with their AAA affiliate. Yes. I was one of their starters. Yes. If I start out pretty hot and I'm one of the hot guys, is that something that, could parlay itself into a big league call up? And they said, well, that's not a guarantee, obviously. And I said, understood. And they said, why you ask? I said, well, I'm not, and probably shared a little bit more than I should have at the time in this conversation. I should have just let it play out and see what happens. But I basically alluded like I wasn't looking to just sit on a AAA team and whatever. So didn't think anything of it. And I ended up getting released one of the last couple of days of spring training. And I remember being in my car and going like this might be it. And I threw well my last start, and I was like, I broke down. I shed a couple tears, and I had a couple people call me from, I think a team from Italy or somewhere like that, so I could go over to Europe or something. I'd entertained some thoughts about maybe going over to Japan for a little bit or whatever, but I'm like, you know what? If this is meant to be, then it is what it is, and it was a great ride, and so I didn't. I don't know if I really knew it, but no, it definitely. You never think about what that last pitch you throw or that last at bat you have as a player. I don't think it really dawns on you, and then it's like I've been doing this since I was 5, and now it is done.
Mm-hmm.
It does not dawn on you, and it's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, and. Do I miss it? I miss it every day. I feel like that's my outlet. I still have dreams of me doing my job. I owned an edible arrangements franchise for 14 years. I had dreams pretty frequently where I was working at the store, running day-to-day business, and Bochy calls me and says, hey, we need a starter for Saturday night. Can you get on a flight? And it feels so realistic to the point of like, I remember the security guards as you drove into the stadium, like saying hi to them and they're high-fiving me, and it was so realistic. And it was so exciting. And then I'd open up my bag and I had like one spike, or I forgot my glove or something. And that's what would wake me up from the dream. I'm like, son of a gun. So do I miss it? I miss it all the time. And so I think for me to be able to be around it for lessons or for Jesuit, or for my son's little league teams. I mean, I remember what those years were like for me and the impression it made in my career. And so for me, that's my chance to kind of, get back to the game and associate with other like-minded people. And so, and hopefully give them the love of the game that I had as well. So, no, it's awesome. So,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Brian, we're gonna flip into the third topic, man. But thank you so much. That was very insightful, man. I really liked everything that you had to say. So
appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you, man. But yeah, absolutely. But so the third topic we're gonna talk about is life after lights. So life after your career. So my first question to you is, what are you doing now? You did cover a little bit with the pitching coach with the high school team, but what else are you doing other than the pitching coach?
Yeah. So that's what I'm most passionate about in life, obviously, is, the game of baseball. And so if there's ways to monetize that, and I know a lot of people have done travel ball or gotten into, the professional side of coaching, tons of different ways. And so for me, I was like, I can go get a job and do real estate or, financial advisor like my buddy or whatever. But I was like, but baseball keeps like kind of tugging on your shirt a little bit. And,
yeah.
And so, I do the Jesuit thing. That's more of a volunteer position more than anything else, but it's just a high level of talent. So I love it. And the contacts I've made around the community are really, really cool. And it's a very storied program to begin with. We were, before we started recording, we were ranked #1 in the country before COVID shut down in 2020. So just a special group of kids to be able to deal with on a daily basis. I'm affiliated with a group that we just went live a couple of months ago called Training Without Borders.
Mm-hmm.
And myself and 3 or 4 other guys that are kind of like-minded. When COVID hit, and even before that, like, I loved the time to, the whole international thing, to go over to the Middle East and Spain and Hong Kong. Like, I had an absolute blast, and the people were amazing. The food was incredible. You don't spend any money to go over there. And I was like, I miss doing that. And now that I don't have the edible arrangements to deal with, I was like, I would love to go back over there. And what you realize, like, there's a lot of kids that are passionate about the game, but they don't have the resources available necessarily that people in the States do. And it's sad because kids here don't realize that. But there's some kids that, like, Hong Kong, man, we would do camps during the day, and there were kids from Hong Kong. A lot of them were Americans that their parents were over there working, but a lot of them were from mainland China and Hong Kong, and they ate up everything you talked about, and just tried to put it into practice every single time they got an opportunity to. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could, because I was just hired help when I went over there, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool that, what if we kind of control that narrative and we're able to go over there on because it was typically like once a year, and it's like, and every single time we went to these places, the kids and the parents were like, when are you coming back? Awesome. Yeah. It was life-changing. When are you coming back? And I'm like, well, it's an 18-hour flight. Probably not tomorrow, but whenever they set it up, the powers that be set it up, I'm hired help here. I would come back as often as you guys would have us. I loved it here. So we started talking during COVID, actually. And I was like, dude, I loved all this stuff. And we just started having some conversations internally. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we had the ability to go over there like once a quarter and have feet on the ground? Because, I'm there for a week, let's say. Well, what are they doing the other 51 weeks a year? Are they getting better? Are they achieving what they're setting out to do? And so to hold those kids accountable a little bit more often and get a chance to, create some more relationships, a little bit deeper relationships and bonds with these players and parents. So I was like, that would be really cool to do that. Well, and then we're like, well, in the meantime, and it's not a new concept, but remote training. So I was like, I got pitching nailed down. We got hitting, we got catching, we got infield, we got strength and conditioning. So you have the ability, wherever you're at with a Wi-Fi connection in the world, basically, to download the app that we use, to take a couple seconds of video, whether it's a hitting. It doesn't have to be game film by any means. It could be in your backyard, throwing into a screen, or playing catch with your brother, pitching, hitting, fielding, whatever. And then you get it to us. We basically have the ability to telestrate, to do voiceover, to give you, hey, here's what you're doing extremely well. Here's what we need to kind of work on and focus on in the future. And attach videos that are pertinent to what they need to work on, and do it from anywhere in the world. And it may be where I got a hitting guy or a pitching guy back home, but where we've kind of been a little stagnant in our development, or I just want another set of eyes on me just to make sure we're doing what we need to do. So that's really where we came at, and where when we originally kind of went live with it, so to speak. It was around the holidays, so it wasn't the best time necessarily to get in front of people, because other people are obviously occupied with different things around the holidays. And there was a little bit of the Omicron spike was around that time frame and such. So wasn't the best time necessarily, but all it's going to take is a handful of people to go, hey, let's try this again and reconnect. And whether it's in Tampa, Florida, to be able to utilize it, just because I don't have the time in my schedule to be able to get you face to face with me, or anywhere in Texas. And I've talked to buddies of mine that are in Texas, California, New York. I've already reached out to some people that are still in Hong Kong and Czech Republic and Australia, Asia. So all it takes is a couple people, and now you have the ability to affect some of these kids and get them better. Because all those kids, when you talk to them, they're all their goals are to play in the States in college, or maybe in high school. And so you have the ability to make that a possibility now, where if they didn't have the ability to interact with somebody like you, because of where they're at geographically, maybe they don't get that opportunity. So, I definitely think when we start to get a little bit more traction, it's going to be something that we can work with a lot of kids. And I've had discussions, so just to be able to scale when it happens, where it's not like, oh, well, we reached our 300 people or whatever that number is. Yeah. We got to cut you off. Well, no, I've talked to buddies of mine that played the big leagues. Majority of them have played the big leagues, and they're just being dads or do a little, dabbling in this or that at home. And I see them at MLB alumni events or, just interacting with them locally. And I'm like, what are you doing now? And they're like, I'm doing a little this, a little that, nothing crazy. What are you doing? And I tell them about it, and they're like, dude, count me in. Sounds incredible. If you want to travel, you have the ability to do that. If you wanted to just be at home and 9 to 3, you're breaking down videos on your couch, you can do that. So there's no inventory to hold or anything like that. You're utilizing technology that's available nowadays. So, and we have a good core of people that are involved with it, quite honestly. So for me, I know when it gets traction, over and especially, COVID part 2 comes somewhere down the road and you can't get out and practice with your teams. Now you can just, pivot very, very quickly and continue your training, and you don't have to really worry about that. So it's got a lot of different possibilities, and it's, if somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about it, I'm more than happy to get any questions answered from them. But if you wanted to take a look at it, it's trainingwob.com if you wanted to take a look at it. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So, and there's a place to ask questions or something like that if you had any questions or concerns. But I mean, there's we started thinking, oh, it's only international. And then we started talking. It's like, well, majority of the travel ball teams that I know around the country, they don't practice. They show and go for tournaments. So it's like, well, how are you getting better? Like, because you don't get better in games. You get better in practice, where you can become uncomfortable and try something new. Well, majority of those teams are paying a lot of money to be on teams. They don't practice. So it's like, well, how are you getting better? And the answer is you're not. Exactly. So I was like, well, there's some people that may fit into it. In the Tampa Bay area, there's a ton of guys that do lessons or work, on the local level, guys that retired from professional baseball that chose to spend the rest of their careers here. In Wyoming, that might not be the case. In, North Dakota, that's probably not the case. Maine, that's probably not the case. So, but all those places have little leagues, have different playing organizations, whether it's Babe Ruth or Ripken or whatever. So there's a ton of kids. There's a ton of kids around the country that may not have the resources, just like the people in other countries, that we have the ability to get in front of and help from afar. And it's not because I'm friends with the dad or, I'm trying to make something happen. It's I'm going to shoot you straight. I'm going to tell you what you need to be told. And, based on what your goals are in this game, I'm going to back you into what you have to do to possibly achieve those. So I think it's just going to be a great experience for not only for me, but for the kids. And it's not just the on-field stuff. Like, ideally we want to be one umbrella where you can anything that you need to work on to make you a better player for high school and beyond, or college scholarships and beyond. We're hoping to have one that we have the strength and conditioning, the nutrition. It may be where you need SAT prep. It may be where we're doing like yoga remotely, mental skills coach. So, eventually when we build this out a little bit, it's going to be one-stop shop and you pay for what you need, and it's affordable. So, and to be able to, I met some people over the last couple of years. Travis Hafner's a good buddy of mine here locally who played. For me, he was one of the top 5 hitters in the American League for a good number of years.
Yes, he was.
People that are able to work with us. Billy Wagner's a buddy of mine that I met during COVID. Some guys like that, to be able to say, hey, because you work with me on a daily basis or a weekly basis, we're going to have a little Q&A with some of these people that are a little bit bigger names than me. And we're going to do a little talk, and you guys can ask questions. Mom and dads want to ask questions, whatever. whether it's a mental performance coach or, some potential Hall of Famers, in my opinion, down the road. There's some value add there that we're going to be able to utilize, and to be able to come there every quarter if there's a good chunk of people in that area, like a little league. My little league here locally that we play out of has 650 kids. So if we got half of that group anywhere in the world, quite honestly, to be able to go there like at least once a quarter, if not even more so, if it makes sense for them and their schedules, to be able to go there and rock and roll and teach the game the right way. Yep. Man, I think it's just going to be an incredible experience for us. So.
Yep. Well, I think your timing is just about perfect on that, because right now baseball is starting to become more international every year. Mm-hmm. You hear more about them going overseas, them scouting here, them scouting there. Mm-hmm. So I think with your idea and the timing of it, I think it's perfect timing, because right now, just with everything going on, and plus with it being 2020, 2021, and, with the world going through what it's going through, and having that virtual contact or in-person contact, depending on, the situation there, I think that's going to be a great thing for not just for the kids in the States, but also for the kids outside, like you were talking about, and the kids who don't have access to, guys like yourself or Billy Wagner or Travis Hafner, but to see him on a screen, because these kids can basically go anywhere in the world, type in Billy Wagner, type in, Brian Tollberg, type in whoever, and see them, in a uniform, and then to have them face to face, that's something that they'll never forget on top of that too, as well.
And that's kind of the vibe we got when we traveled to these different places. And what's just so incredible for me is, like, I didn't have that stuff as a kid. I didn't have people telling me, I'm going to, you're 10 in a different country, but I'm going to share with you some stuff that I learned in the big leagues or in college that's going to make you a better 10-year-old, 11-year-old.
Yep.
And hopefully you absorb a little bit of this information, and it really hits home, and you can become a heck of a good ball player and have the ability to achieve your goals in this game. And so it's cool just because everybody has been so open to it. I mean, Mike Devereaux, who I don't know if you remember him, but he played, a good chunk of years. He was like the NLCS most valuable player the year that I want to say that the Braves won the World Series previous to this past year.
Okay.
I played with him in AAA. He lives here pretty locally. Well, he was a big league head coach for a good number of years with the Rockies, and just a solid guy, and just explains the game so well. Like, he's in our holding area. Like, hey, when we get busy enough, he's rocking and rolling. He's hopping on board with us. So there's such an amount of quality guys that, and they're good teachers. That's the biggest thing. Their resumes speak for themselves, but they're good teachers, because there's a lot of guys that played at a high level. They can't communicate very well to a 7-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Yep.
Takes different skill set.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So for me to have the guys that we've had conversations with, and then it's just like, hey, as soon as we reach this threshold, we got guys ready to rock and roll and jump in and join the team. And they're just, they're waiting on the sideline, so to speak. So it's going to be pretty special. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can see the foundation. And the cool thing I like talking about you is you can see the passion in your face. Like, you can hear in your voice. So, like, like, you're ready to do this. Like, you can see that it's coming out of a place of love, and it's coming out of, like, the good part. That's really cool. On top of that, being able to coach the kids correctly. I mean, that's all you can ever ask for as a kid, trying to absorb the game and trying to absorb it the right way.
Well, I'm not a very good BSer, unfortunately, and I try to talk from the heart. And baseball, it's so easy to talk about, just because I've seen so much and experienced so much, good and bad. And so, for me, it's just using that as a vehicle to teach kids, whether they're here locally or somewhere else. And so I think we'll do well with it. It's just a matter of, just getting a couple people to try something different, because it is. I think that's the biggest thing that we've had is not even a drawback, but if I had somebody local and not getting results, they're local, versus, well, you got a finite amount of time to get better, and so I can stay with something that's not working, or I can try something a little different, even if it's for one time. You do it one time and you don't like it, you're not committed. I mean, I have a money back guarantee with me. I mean, you try something and you don't feel like there's value, I will gladly give your money back. I've done that for 12 years of doing lessons here locally. Haven't given a dime back yet.
Exactly.
I feel like, the people that we have, and as passionate as we are about getting your kids better, I'm more than happy to give you your money back. I'm not trying to lock you in for 2 years or more is better or whatever. You pay for what you need. And so, and it's just a different vehicle to get your kids the instruction that they need. And so, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited moving forward with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can you just say that website one more time so people can
Absolutely.
just have that on there?
So it's sure. So it's a training, www.training, TRAININGWOB. So training WOB, and that's trainingwithoutborders.com.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely want to make sure people go to the right spot. I don't want them to go to the wrong spot or anything like that. So, okay. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, did you have any idea or expectations what your life would be after your playing career was done?
And you sent me these questions, but it's like I'm hearing them for the first time, and they're so no. Don't apologize. They're so impactful, and I wish a lot of guys thought about these kind of things when they're playing still. Did my life turn out the way I thought it to after my playing career was done? Was that the?
So just
know what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, no, just the expectations. Like after you were done, did you have like expectations, or did you have like any idea what your life would be like? Kind of like, is it different now than what you built it up in your head after you were done? Just kind of like that way of going.
It's actually better, if that's possible. Like I was like we talked about before we started recording. Like I was very lost for probably a good 8 to 12 months after I retired, just because it had been such a big part of my identity in life, and to take that away, like I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know which way to go, and I was like, I'm not 20 years old. I'm 34 at the time, and so I didn't really know and I didn't want to make a mistake and spend 5 years chasing a mistake of an occupation, and so I ended up kind of getting into that, the edible arrangements franchise initially. And, was that what I had envisioned, me selling cut fruit and chocolated fruit on sticks? No, but it's an easy sell. Everybody eats chocolate. Everybody eats fruit. It was an easy sell to people. You just had to. So for me, the business lessons that I learned there, like, how to do QuickBooks, how to, advertise the right way, how to network. Networking was huge for me, because I wasn't really good at that in pro ball, in my opinion. Just learning how to run a business successfully. And somebody told me right from the get-go, like most new businesses fail within the first year of its existence or something. And I was like, that's good to know. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I turned 14 years into it. So, and was very successful. So for me, I think all roads, learning how to own my own business, playing baseball at the highest level, now to be able to, work with the youth and to be able to monetize and help kids around the world, and what I had aspired to do, and travel internationally and whatever. I didn't know what company it would be. So now I get to check all those boxes that I had originally, was excited to try to go do out of college. I get to do that now.
Yep.
I was excited to be a dad post-playing career, and I got 2 of the best kids you could ever ask for, a great wife. So, they love baseball, which is kind of nice. It would kind of suck if they, liked checkers or, piano or something like that, and they had no interest in baseball. So, I feel very fortunate, very, very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. But I feel like I've made kind of smart decisions to put myself in this position in life. And, and if I can make a nice living along the way and do what I love to do, like the old saying goes, if you find something you love, you never work a day in your life. It's a grind sometimes. I'm tired sometimes. There's times where I throw for 8 hours straight, and I'm like, my arm is smoked, but it's like it wouldn't have it any other way.
Yep.
So,
yep. Well, that's awesome, man. My last question of the interview is, after all these years of playing baseball, because it sounds like you started at 5 and ended just, I'm gonna call it 35. So I'm gonna give you 30 years overall.
Sure. Okay.
How does your body feel? How are you holding up? You did mention a little bit that your arm gets smoked after, throwing 8 hours of batting practice, but that's also, a little different than playing pro sports.
Well, I probably throw more. I can guarantee I throw more now than I did in any stint in my career. Just playing catch with kids, and I catch my own guys now, and don't wear any gear. Don't wear a cup. Don't wear a face mask. Don't wear shin guards most of the time. And my wife's like, "You're an absolute idiot." And then I'll come home and I'll get ready to get in the shower or whatever, and I'll have a big black and blue mark on my thigh or my shin, and she's like, "You are the dumbest guy I know." And I'm like, I trust my hands a little bit too much, more than I probably should. And it's funny because I never played catcher my entire career, and that's all I do now is catch my kids. And but I like to be back there to see the movement and to see their direction and arm path, and just sitting off to the side. I just feel like I'm a little bit more involved by catching my kids. Now, I do strap on some gear sometimes when, I've got some guys that are up to 97, 98.
Yeah.
So I don't move as quick as I used to. And so, just to protect a little bit more. So I'll throw in some shin guards or something like that just in case. But, for the most part, I feel pretty good. My playing weight, it's funny you asked this. My playing weight, because you see some guys that years have not been good to them post-playing career. I'm not training the way I used to and running and exercising, and they pack on some pounds pretty quick. I played, the heaviest I played at was 220 in pro ball. So from 152 in high school to 220, give that about 70 pounds that I gained. And for the most part, muscle. Once I retired, I got to a point where I got up to about 230. And then during COVID, actually, I was like my knees would be a little sore, and just didn't feel my healthiest. I wasn't running, I wasn't really doing too much, and I changed my diet over the quarantine and stuff. Something that my sister-in-law was doing at the time, and she was just yoked doing this 30-day cut for women. And so I checked out the 30-day cut for men, and it was I ate more than I ever had. It was clean food. And the first week, I think I lost 4 pounds, which I was like, that's about all I'm going to see. I lost 30 pounds. So I got down below. So I'm right around like 200 probably right now. So I'm below my playing weight. My body feels good. I still work out 3 days a week. Obviously I'm throwing and I'm out there, exercising with guys. I'm going to start trying to run a little bit more. I ran a marathon when I turned 40. That was a bucket list thing. But no, for the most part, I mean, I'm almost 50 right now, 49. And so for me, I feel pretty darn good for, 49 years old. And, I still push myself in the weight room with my buddy pretty hard for our 3 days that we work out. So, his whole thing is, you want to be able to still beat up your kids, and you want to look good naked. So those are our, I don't care about my squat max anymore or anything like that. So, that's kind of what I shoot for now.
Yeah, I totally understand what the whole max squatting thing. Yeah, it's a little overrated, especially if you're a baseball player. You really don't need that.
Well, when I played, it was important. Now, as a coach, it's totally irrelevant. So, yeah.
That's where I was going with that. Yeah. When you play, it's a little bit different, and also plus you want to be the strongest dude in the room when you play. It's just
for sure.
It's a bragging right thing, So.
Machismo, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it exists. I'm sorry, it does. So no matter how much you pretend like it doesn't exist, you want to be the strongest student on your team or in your class or whatever. So
absolutely.
But Brian, man, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. That was the last question that I had. Anything else that you would like to talk about or promote that you're doing? I know you are doing an upcoming book. We did talk about that a little bit. I know you don't have a title for it just yet, but do we have like an ETA or kind of an estimate or anything else?
I'm hoping sometime this year it should be completed, and we'll probably self-publish. So I'll try to promote it through you when that time comes. But it's going to be pretty cool, I think, just because I'm writing it because I did get to where I got to in this game at the highest levels. Kind of a unique circumstances going through an independent league and quitting in high school, and the things that I did and didn't do, and so I think that there's a lot of life lessons in there for kids. It's not I wasn't a Hall of Famer or anything along those lines, but I think I'm relatable more so than a Hall of Famer to a lot of the kids and the parents out there, and that's really what I want to show. Like anything is possible, man. You need to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to be your biggest critic. You need to really place an emphasis on academics, because there's a real good chance you're not getting to the big leagues, or you may not play college ball. So I got into college because I was a smart kid, and I qualified for some academics money, and I was an easy sign for him because he didn't have to come out of pocket a lot for scholarship money for baseball. So I think that there's a lot of life lessons, and I've written a couple chapters already and shared that with a couple people just to see if they could write a little blurb for the back sleeve or something like that. And Dick Vitale wrote something for me. Clint Hurdle wrote the introduction for me. I got some people like that are some cool people that wrote some very nice words, very kind words about it, and how they feel like that could help kids trying to achieve their goals in life. So I'm excited when it comes out. I think, and I'm not planning on getting rich. I just hope that, some of that can, is relatable to kids, and they find it to be a good read, and hopefully inspires them moving forward.
Yeah. I know off the top of my head, I can't remember this guy's name, but he has a very similar story to you. One of the high schools I went to, I won't mention because I don't want to give this high school any publicity, so I'm not a big fan of it, but he quit his high school team just like you. Told him, but the coach told him he was basically worthless. Quit, right. Went to junior college, did great, went to college, did great, made it to the major leagues. He did make it for quite a while, and he came back, and then he just told the coach, he said, "So what do you have to say to me now?"
Yeah.
So, but it's very similar to your story. For the life of me, I cannot remember who he was. He was at the high school 5 years before I was. I did know he did make it. I did remember that story. But yeah, so
sure.
Just off the top of my head, I do know there is somebody else in your boat, in your shoes. But yeah,
sure.
I just think a lot of kids are going to relate this not only just to the sports level or the baseball level, but just to like different life levels too as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be very relatable.
And there's a lot of people. I mean, everybody I've talked to about like, well, what was your, call up story like and whatever. I mean, majority of the guys, I mean, I was the first guy from that Frontier League to make it, and, to be inducted into their Hall of Fame, to have the Cy Young Award named after me, to have my number retired. I mean, a lot of cool things that I never anticipated happening, quite honestly. But again, like, I think, can look and go, well, he wasn't the best player. He didn't get drafted. He wasn't a first round pick. He wasn't this. He wasn't that. That's me. Most kids are not the best players on their team. Most kids, need a little bit more instruction or a little, kick in the butt sometimes to motivate themselves or whatever. And so hopefully they see, some things about what I did and some things that I wish I would have done a little differently. And not to be a cautionary tale necessarily, but them like anything's possible if you set your mind to it. I mean, anything in this world is possible. I'm living proof of it. So absolutely.
So, well, thank you, Brian, so much for being the second guest ever on the show. I appreciate it, man. Your interview was awesome. Your story was great. I'm glad that we got to know you better and everything that you're doing. Brian Tollberg, former major league pitcher for the San Diego Padres. Everybody, make sure you check out everything that Brian is doing. Stay in the loop. Check him out at trainingwithoutborders.com. Check his website out. If you are also, it sounds like to me, if I got this correctly, even if you're in the United States, outside the United States, Mexico, Canada, Asia, Japan, China, anywhere in the world, you can go on it, check it out, have him and some other professionals help you out, help you get better. And that way you can get yourself to that next level. Also, to check out his book, when it's going to come out this year. And when it comes out, we'll get you back on the show. We'll get you to promote the book.
For sure.
You can tell some great stories about it, and maybe we'll get a Rickey Henderson story or two out of you with that time too as well.
Absolutely, for sure.
So, all right. Well, Brian, thank you so much, man. Did you want to say anything else before we sign off?
It's just been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully this helps some people out there that are kind of going through the same thing at times, and kind of paves the way for them as far as what their future may bring after the game's over.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much for watching the YouTube channel Life Without Lights. Please like, subscribe, add, share. Check out Brian's awesome story. Share his story with everybody that you know. Spread the word and help everybody. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I am Tyler Greer. I am signing out. And this is Brian Tollberg, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tyler. Absolutely, guys.
Absolutely.
Take
Everybody
care.
have a great night. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.